everybody. This is your brother Marc Lamont Hill. You're listening to the Classroom and the Cell podcast. I am Marc Lamont Hill, and this is
Mumia Abu Jamal.
Man, now this one is going to be a little short, y'all, because me and Mumia were taking our small talk. They don't give us extensions. You'd be surprised to know the Pennsylvania State Prison System doesn't give us podcast extensions. So we were just over there rapping like brothers. And I said, I guess we got to share some of this with the people, man. I was thinking it's the beginning of Black History Month. I always think about growing up what that meant. It meant you're going to get some Martin Luther King, you're going to get this Frederick Douglass, you might even get some Abraham Lincoln. But over time, we've come to think about Black History Month a little bit differently. How do you think about it?
Well, I think that if you're honest and you're critical, you know that human history begins with Black people. I say that to say that the first human beings who walked on the planet we now call Earth were in Africa. And they're therefore the mothers, the fathers, the great-grandmothers, the great-grandfathers of the human race. And, science has proven that. And, we've always known that. And it's crazy how we're treated in the world with that kind of, immense genealogy. So, Black History Month was, remember, it started as what? Negro History Week. And struggles of our people, pushed it to a month, but it's also, probably the least respected month in terms of time in the annual calendar, But, we make the best of it because that's what we always do.
No, that's right. And when I think about it, I always say, okay, it's an opportunity to celebrate our heroes for sure. It's also an opportunity to point out some unsung heroes, some Black folk whose names otherwise don't get mentioned. But then there's an opportunity to go deeper than that, to not just highlight names and faces, but to actually talk about our traditions, our ways of knowing, our ways of being, our kind of recenter Africa and African people, and in the United States to center the experiences of the descendants of slavery, and say, look, this is who we are, this is our tradition. So I guess to the first question, who's somebody that you think people should know more about? Who is somebody that people should be thinking about or talking about more?
I don't think people really have sat down, and I know some people, who haven't done this, and they're part of a movement, but the ideas of Huey P. Newton, and I say that because I've talked to brothers and sisters, in the membership and in the leadership of the new Black Panther Party, and they've never read anything by Huey P. Newton. And I think it's disrespectful. And, this is the brother who sacrificed not just his time, but his life to the movement, and was brilliant and courageous. But the more I read him today, the more brilliant I see he was, in his growth.
Yeah.
Bobby Seale, I think when he did the right thing, this is when two young college students from Merritt Junior College in Oakland were struggling to create an organization that could speak to the time. This is October 15th, 1966. And Bobby gave him a copy of The Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon. Huey read that thing 6 times.
Wow.
Times. Because it kept bringing him back, and he read slowly, but he read deeply. And if you study the Black Panther Party, easily 40% of the ideas that became ideological positions and ideas and internationalism and those kind of ideas, they came straight from The Wretched of the Earth, from Frantz Fanon. And that's how profound, So, if you don't want to read Frantz Fanon, which is difficult, read Huey.
I love that. And, of course, we encourage y'all to read both, but you're right. Reading the work of Huey is important. And Huey P. Newton is an interesting guy, as you talk about getting a PhD from the University of California, Santa Cruz, in History of Consciousness, that same program where Angela Davis eventually taught, our beloved sister. When you think about his intellectual trajectory, it was one of deep study. And I think that's how I think about Black History Month, as an opportunity to engage in deep study. I at the same time that you throwing out Huey, in that same vein, and then I'm going to throw out Angela Davis, is another person that I think folks should take seriously. I think there's so many ways that we know Angela, and there's a way that she's a kind of icon, and people see afros and marching, and people know, if they're old enough, you know, they know about, you know, her incarceration. They know about her facing the death penalty. They get all of that. But they haven't necessarily engaged her as a philosopher. They haven't read her work and her theorizing closely. You know, she spent time, a lot of time, obviously, you know, carefully studying, sitting next to some of the most important thinkers of the 20th century, certainly the most important philosophers of the 20th century. I mean, that can't be a small thing. You know, when people read her work in feminism, when people read her work on abolitionism, you know, Our Prison's Obsolete being a kind of standard text, you know,
absolutely,
those are important. Those are important things, indispensable things. I'm even going to say we can't think abolition without thinking about the work of Angela Y. Davis. We can't think about, you know, you talk about blues feminism. You know, when you know, all this stuff, man, it's so important. And I think Black History Month is an opportunity to do that, again, to celebrate folk we don't normally celebrate, and also to take the folk who we claim to celebrate and take them more seriously.
That's right. And, you know, one of the jewels of the Black Panther Party was the necessity for all members, brothers and sisters, community workers, party members, all of them, to study. You know, we used to have something called PE, political education class, and we would like pack a text, right? A brother would read it and explain it and break it down, like one of the more senior, more seasoned brothers. Because, you know, you got to break Frantz Fanon down. You can't just, you know, you can't just, you know, just open it up and just go, because he's very, very complex. You know, as life is complex, right? Like jazz is complex. And what you said about Angela Davis, you know, one of the greatest and foremost feminist thinkers of the 20th and the 21st century. And, you know, when she got acquitted and walked out of her courtroom, she could have went back to her classroom and just, you know, chill.
Yep.
No, she helped found critical.
You have 1 minute left.
Critical resistance, and has worked for decades against the prison industrial complex and for abolition for decades. And that speaks to, you know, not just a philosopher, but an activist and a revolutionary philosopher who put her ideas in the world. Yeah.
That's the stuff of legends, man. That's what we got Black History Month for. But that's what we got. Hopefully, if we're doing it right, not just Black History Month, but every single day we're doing political education. Every single day we're doing deep study. We're doing close readings. We're doing all this stuff, because that's part of getting free is deep study, man. And don't nobody model that like you, Mumia, man. I ain't never met nobody read as much, as deeply, and as widely as you do.
Well, you got to thank Death Row, because they really made me into a librarian.
I don't know if I can thank them, but I definitely link them. I will link the relationship.
Thank you for using Securus. Goodbye.
Love you too, man. On the move, everybody. You listen to the Classroom in the Cell podcast. We'll come back more maybe during Black History Month with some more people, names, ideas, traditions, movements that maybe folk can study a little more closely this month. But, of course, again, we encourage y'all to do it every single day of the year, every single day of our lives. If you want to get more from the Classroom in the Cell podcast with me and Mumia Abu Jamal, just go to the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. You can find all of it there. You can find all of our episodes, all of our conversations. You can also find other content that will help expand your mind and deepen your critical consciousness. Hopefully you are enjoying this. And if you are, hit the subscribe button and hit that little bell next to the subscribe button so you can get updates on when we put out new content. If you're so inclined, you can also hit the join button and become a monthly contributor to the Classroom and the Cell podcast. And finally, if you want to, you can also go to Cash App, $MLHTV. $MLHTV. You can make any contribution you want to help expand the platform, help build studio space, help to expand our personnel, and do everything else we can to increase the reach of our mission. All right, y'all, on the move.